Welcome back everyone, 𝘱𝘬𝘬𝘳𝘺 here. Today's video, I'm going to be giving you an update about living in Puerto Rico for 3 years. So to be exact, it's been 3 years and 3 months. April 6th was my 3-year anniversary. So today, I'm going to be getting into a few topics just to kind of go over Puerto Rico, give you an idea of what life is like here. I'm going to give you an idea of what it's like with relationships. I'm going to give you an idea of maintaining my closer connection and making sure that I'm completely covered when it comes to my presence test and how I approached that to begin with when I first moved here and how I feel about that now. I'm going to be talking about just like things to do, accepting Puerto Rico for what it is, how long I plan to be here, and I'm also going to be talking about why you should move to Puerto Rico and giving you some ideas of things you may not have been aware of that may make Puerto Rico a more appealing place for you and potentially your family. So let's get into it. As a Puerto Rican bona fide resident who is an Act 22 recipient, I am required to spend 183 days in Puerto Rico. There's different ways that you can achieve the presence test here in Puerto Rico. You could, just spend more days in Puerto Rico than you do in the States. Or you could spend 5 months in the States, 5 months and 1 day in Puerto Rico, and the rest of the time abroad. So there's another, a few other ways to get, to make sure that you reach that presence test, but that is one of them. For me, personally, I know that traveling abroad this year is going to be challenging. I'm probably going to need a vaccine, even though I've already had COVID once, maybe twice, and already recovered, so that is my vaccine. So I don't know how much I'm going to be traveling abroad, so for me, I'm just going to make sure that I'm in Puerto Rico for more days than I am in the States. For me, I personally like to do a little bit more than the 6 months, just to be on the safe side. Even though in 2020, I was probably here like 7 or 8 months out of the year, actually. I think I was in California for 4 months, and I was in Puerto Rico for 8 months. So when I first moved to Puerto Rico, and I was, always telling my family, like, I have to be in Puerto Rico for this many days out of the year, and I would say my first year, maybe my second year, I was kind of sort of close to the 183 days, and I didn't go over it too much because Puerto Rico was a new place to me. I was always looking forward to going back to California. But just to give you an idea, I've been in Puerto Rico for 6 straight months already. So 6 months and 2 days. So it's only July 14th. Of the day of this recording, and I have already completed my presence test when it comes to Puerto Rico. When I first moved here, all I could think about and look forward to was my next trip back to California to see more familiar faces. But what ended up happening very quickly here, I would say over a 3-year period, is that Puerto Rico feels like home. This is where I want to be, okay? I am still in love with this place. The honeymoon phase still exists for me. I want to be here. This is where I want to be. So I kind of wanted to give you that perspective of how that progression has been for me when it comes to, I first moved here, I was trying to just get in my days, and now I'm like, this is where I want to spend the majority of my time. Now I want to get into relationships. So I found the first 3 weeks I was in Puerto Rico, it was a little bit challenging, it was a little bit hard, I didn't know what to do, how to meet people. I kind of just sat in my apartment and looked around. But I do that honestly when I move to a new place, is that it takes me a while to get into the flow of things. I spend a lot of time just sitting, looking around and observing. I don't know, I've realized this with myself since I move once a year. And so after 3 weeks, I met one person, and then it was just like wildfire, right? So there's the WhatsApp groups where you could go to beach tennis, beach volleyball, soccer, all sorts of different things. There's a beer pong group, a boxing group, a basketball group. For any activity you could possibly think of, there is a group for it through the WhatsApp group. And that was how I initially started meeting people. I also went to a lot of crypto meetups. And another way that I was actually able to meet people was because of the YouTube videos that I was making about Puerto Rico. So not on this channel specifically, but my 𝘱𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘺 YouTube channel, I made a lot of videos about Puerto Rico, moving to Puerto Rico, life in Puerto Rico, Act 20, 22, which is now called Act 60. And I actually met a surprising amount of people through that, and what turned out to be the case was those people ended up being some of my closest friends, actually. And I don't know if it was because they already kind of knew a side of me, so it was easier to get to know me. I'm not really sure how that dynamic works. It's kind of interesting because the relationship in a sense is kind of one-sided when you initially meet because they know a lot about you, but you don't know a lot about them. But looking back, people that I met because of YouTube, became like literally my best friends, my closest friends here. And that was one surprising way that I was able to actually make friends here, and some of the best friends, people that turn into roommates or business partners, or people that I'm just extremely, extremely close with, that I truly appreciate their friendship in my life. So things to do in Puerto Rico. I was literally just saying how I have this super long list of things to do in Puerto Rico, and I feel like I'm never going to get through it. This island has so much to offer, from the beaches to the really cool bars, to the salsa dancing, to the day trips out in the mountains, to the waterfalls, to the really cool Airbnbs to check out on this island. It is never ending when it comes to things to do in Puerto Rico. I actually feel like so overwhelmed right now because I'm like, there's all these things I really want to do, and I don't have enough hours in the day to get to them. So when it comes to life in Puerto Rico and activities and socializing and exploring more, it is truly never ending. I mean, even when I just go like for a walk a few miles down the street, I'm like, wow, look at all these new restaurants that opened up. I got to check out that place and that place and that place and that place. So it is just never ending with things to do. Accepting Puerto Rico for what it is one of the most important things that I think people need to think about before moving here. Puerto Rico is very different from the States, right? You're gonna have like such limited options for Uber Eats or anything food delivery related. It's gonna be a lot more challenging to get groceries delivered. You're gonna be depending if you're coming from like a place that already has traffic. I mean, there's like a decent amount of traffic here. Things are just slow. The customer service is gonna be a challenge. I went to the bank the other day to open a bank account. It only took 1 hour. I was expecting it to be like a 4 or 5 hour situation because I've gone to the point, right, where I accept Puerto Rico for what it is. I'm anticipating opening up a bank account is going to take 4 to 5 hours. So you just like expect the worst, and then it ends up most of the time not being as bad as you would anticipate, but you just accept it to be a little bit more challenging. So accepting Puerto Rico for what it is one of the most important things. And for the first 3 years, that was really easy for me, right? Because I didn't really work. I was living a very retired life. And then I decided to come out of retirement and get back into the entrepreneur space and open a business and be more active here on YouTube. So I've had to like do more like regular things out in the real world, I guess. And because of that, I noticed myself in the beginning having a hard time going back to accepting Puerto Rico for what it is. Like, I'll give you an example. I took 4 of my rental vehicles to the car wash yesterday to get the inside and the outside cleaned. They all came back with sand and dirt still on the seats. And I was very, very frustrated. I was getting like really, really mad about it. And I had to remind myself, accept Puerto Rico for what it is. The standards here are different than what's in the States. But in that scenario, I brought it up to the manager of the place. I said, hey, listen, like I bring my cars here a lot, and I was really disappointed actually with how poorly the cars were cleaned on the inside. So she went out there, she yelled at the guys, and then she's like, bring your car back, we want to make it right. So you kind of just have to be like vocal and honest. And for me, like in that scenario, I was just honest, and I said, listen, like, because I try my best. Sometimes I'm too nice and I reward bad behavior by giving too good of a tip. So I'm like, you know what? I need to stop rewarding bad behavior. And I'm like, listen, like, I'm sorry, but I was not pleased with the work and I can't leave a tip because I just can't do it. I have to go home and finish cleaning these vehicles because they weren't cleaned correctly. And in that moment, I was mad and I was furious. But then I have to settle down and be like, Mariah, do what you say you got to do. Accept Puerto Rico for what it is. But it's also important to like be vocal and point out those situations because improvements do need to be made here. I don't want to change this place fundamentally, but improvements need to be made. And that just goes to the fact that Puerto Rico has an insane amount of potential. This place is like exploding with potential, and there's a few reasons why it's never going to happen. That's not how it's perceived by most people. I see opportunity everywhere I look in this place. But first of all, the government suffocates it to death from an economical perspective. So unfortunately, as long as the current government structure stands, Puerto Rico will not economically thrive because the opportunities are not here long term for people that are trying to get jobs on the island. There's not an abundance of high quality jobs. So there's a big brain drain. People go back to the States to find better opportunities, okay? That's one reason why. And 2 is, I don't know. I mean, it's different, right? I grew up in the States. I just moved here. I see this place booming with opportunity, but also I'm a person that just sees opportunity in general. But I feel like there are many Puerto Ricans born and raised that I've had discussions with here that don't quite see the opportunities like I do. But I see it from a business perspective. I don't see it from the perspective of if I'm trying to go to college and get a job, right? I'm very anti-college, very anti, normal job. But if you're looking at this place and you're an entrepreneur, this place is exploding with opportunity. So why should you move to Puerto Rico? If you have a business, okay, you can export services and they pay just a 4% corporate tax, okay? So you could have a consulting company here. There's a big variety of different companies. So we have people that do Amazon FBA. We have people that have insurance companies on this island. A lot of different business owners, okay? So there's tax incentives there. If you have a lot of investment, 0% capital gains, right? This is under Act 60. If you're a doctor, you can come here and you could pay a 4% tax as a physician, okay? What other opportunities? If you want to start something in tourism, there's also, I believe, a 4% tax and a bunch of other incentives as well. What if you're a young entrepreneur? If you're between the ages of 16 and 36, I believe, I want to say it's Act 134, you can qualify for the Young Entrepreneurs Act. And that one basically states that it's whatever comes first, either 3 years in business or $500,000 in sales, you're going to pay 0 tax on that, okay? Massive for someone just starting a business, okay? So there's a ton of tax incentives within Puerto Rico outside of the opportunity that's already here. So how long am I going to live in Puerto Rico? I get this question all the time. How long am I going to live in Puerto Rico? You know what? I'm going to live in Puerto Rico until it's not fun anymore. I'm having the absolute time of my life. I think I have fun. I could say that I have fun every single day. There's something every single day to do, and I just know how to have fun every day. But that takes you. Puerto Rico has everything that you have to offer to live a happy, enjoyable life full of joy and fun and happiness, but it takes you to see this place for what it is and to choose that every single day. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got a different perspective on Puerto Rico and what life is like here, because I love this place so much. I am so passionate about it, and it's really funny because every time someone asks me about Puerto Rico, I just go on this big spiel about how I love this place and how I'm obsessed and how it's still the honeymoon phase. And someone's always like, I'm not the IRS. They ask me that because it's you don't need to prove to the IRS that you're here for more than taxes. But I actually feel that way. I am truly obsessed and in love with this island. It's just so beautiful. It's so unique. And I have really great friends here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to know, are you considering moving to Puerto Rico? Why or why not? That is all I have for you today. As always, go out there and create a portfolio that you love.